Hey again. Sorry I dipped out on you. My battery died. It's a little after midnight. It is now the 30th. To recharge my battery. It's kind of an apt metaphor, I guess. So, I was talking about Yeltsin earlier. I was working my way to a point that I've kind of forgotten. I more or less made it. Wonder what he thinks, you know? Sometimes I think what it's going to be like to look back at, for old men, old women to look back at these times. I was just kind of reaching for that perspective. I'm here with you now. I'm still in the middle of my article. It started to bore me. It's not that I grew tired of the sugarcoating, because I don't really sugarcoat things, but just no matter how much levity I tried to weave into the thing, like, the more I realized what the fundamental point was, the more impatient I became with establishing context. The more I wanted to just say what I have to say, that I think is obvious. Like, oh God, it makes me sick to even think about. But I feel like I owe it to you to say it to your face. Do you know what I mean? I'm still going to publish the article and have it be, I don't know, as enriching stylistically, which is, just the virtue of the medium, as possible. But really, this is a human thing, primarily. I believe this is more important than those candors out. I think this is atypical for me. Like, I've come to care about you, whatever side of this thing that you're on. And that doesn't change the fact of it. I guess it just shows, like, I really am a bleeding heart person, after all. But well, what's the point of being a caring person if your care is just going to be abused? You know, like, if your compassion is ultimately the cause of its own demise. This is probably the hardest thing to say I've ever had to say. I don't know if I'm going to say it. I don't know if I'm going to say it. It's interesting bearing the responsibility for other people's actions, other people's poor decisions, people you don't even know, people far away from you, whose walks of life don't intersect with yours directly. I don't know the details, because it's historic and vast for a long period of time, but Russia is a fiercely competitive culture internally. I'm not even speaking internationally now. And over time, the people who've risen to the top, the people who have all the chips, well, they have ledgers full of red. You know what I mean? They've succeeded, well, through criminal activity. You know, they are, well, unforgivable in the eyes of society. Yet they're kind of like untouchable in the way of a gangster would be, right? We're talking about oligarchs. We're talking about keys to power. So, if you ascend to such a position in such a way, and there's no going back for you, because the people within your own society would never forgive you, you know, well, then you're stuck. You just can't relinquish your power, of course, although your fortune may ebb and flow. You have to hold tight to whatever mechanisms grant you immunity to, you could say legal prosecution, but really it's just, well, habeas corpus. You know, you have to make sure that no one can get their hands on you, because if you're that rich, you've pissed a lot of people off. More people than you can protect yourself from, practically. So you have to have the law do it for you. More than the law, you have to have like the spirit of the time. You have to live in a nation and influence your nation. You know, wield your influence, whatever it is. Trade favors with people who will allow you to operate in such a way that you'll continue to be insulated. Because the moment that goes away, you're done. There's no amnesty, right? This isn't specific to Russia, obviously, but it's an extreme case. So, for a long time, it was just a domestic thing. They were our neighbors, so to speak. We being the West, generally. And so long as it was in their own house, it kind of wasn't our business, more or less. I don't know why this changed. Well, I do. But God, this story makes me so sad. So consider, if you will, that a handful of oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, became incredibly wealthy in this modern age, and because of the rise of digital technology, new opportunities presented themselves to operate invisibly, right? With completely plausible deniability under the umbrella of a sovereign state, which up until this point in history is the ultimate untouchable entity. Okay? So they're untouchable within an untouchable edifice. A very few people, some keys to power. Why would you do something so stupid? How could you be so unafraid as an individual as to let random constituencies across the world become part of the collateral damage that your empire causes? You know? The answer to that is obvious and it horrifies me. Not the logistics of it, you know, the solution to it. Professional soldiers fight and they die. That's. I can live with that. Everyone knows that. Everyone can live with that. Be at peace with it. But the nature of your actions steeped so far outside the bounds of any hope of reconciliation or amnesty, you know, like who you've been willing to be and the necessity that you invoke among us that would live a decent life or attempt to, you know. Not that we didn't get our own opportunities to be as you are, you know. What you would invoke in us, or fail to realize that you invoke in us, is just stupefying. It's like the most grotesque part of human nature, the thing that everyone's the most afraid of, you know. The closest thing there is to the devil himself. Quite at home in your mind, in your actions, in your motivation. That's such a grave accusation that carries such stark consequence, simple consequence, that it makes me reconsider it instantly. I must have you wrong. You must be frightened. You must want out. You must want to live a different way, but you believe you can't. You believe no one would forgive you. You believe you wouldn't be safe. And I begin to grind on that for you, on your behalf. There's got to be a way for amnesty. There's got to be a safe place for you if you give up what you have. Yeah. Not as punishment, but the things that you set in motion have to stop. I mean, I for one, you know, it's like you've pressed my life on it for nothing. What do you expect me to do? You know? And still I think of you. Oh, this'll be the last time, you know? I mean, whatever happens here, this pretty much sets my moral character in stone for however long it lasts, my life. But this'll be it. It's impossible to describe what is necessary to those who do not know what horror means. you know. I'm not being fanciful. There's no other way to put it. The collateral consequence of your actions and the lengths that you're willing to go to maintain your untouchability. Have become so dire to such a large portion of the population that your removal is an afterthought. That's the ugly part. It's not about a skirmish, you know, of professional soldiers against professional soldiers. You won't win that. And once it's over, everything that protects you will be gone. I mean, maybe that's part of your philosophy, you know? Live fast for as long as you can until it inevitably collapses around your head. I can't believe you've been successful with that kind of mindset. It points out a weakness in us, for sure, that we would allow that to happen, you know? Not through lack of punishment or enforcement or regulation internally in your country or internationally, but as human beings, we hear our neighbor beat his wife every night. We hear her never strike back. And it bothers us. We can hear it. It's next door. And the glee in your voice is it's sickening. You're not someone with whom anyone would be a neighbor. Is there amnesty for you? Key to power? Well, the bottom line is, of course, there could be, but you won't take it. You wouldn't. You would never trust that. You know. Someone would have to expose you, someone on whom you depend, right? There would have to be a complete social sea change. Or you would have to have a come to Jesus moment, personally. And because there's more than one of you, you know, it's hard to, make a blanket judgment, because who knows what way who is going to go. It's business. It's not about revenge. It's not about profit. It's not about prestige. It's about basic human life. You know. It's about things that you've forgotten the value of. You've demonstrated that you've forgotten the value of in your actions. And so it's impossible to appeal. So we're at this point now where one of four things can happen, two of which are likely. The other two, not so much. One, you come to Jesus and this all goes away. That's not going to happen, but it is on the table. Two, we back down and well, that doesn't really maintain the status quo, does it? It just means you continue expanding as you've expanded, which is unacceptable. You know, it'll come to a head again. You'll fuck up again because you don't watch. There's too many degrees of separation between your initiatives and the chain of contractors that carry them out. Fuck-ups compound on each other. What do you think I'm doing here? You know? We never even got to that story, huh? You don't even really know the story of me yet. Oh, it's a doozy. Rocky and Bullwinkle. This has been some Rocky and Bullwinkle shit. Moo me. It's funny. So we back down, you come to Jesus. Like, those aren't happening. That's two of the four. Professional military confrontation does not occur. And clandestine operations escalate. It becomes a tradecraft war. Unto there's no president. It becomes some Shadowrun cyberpunk bullshit. For real. Corporations start having intelligence factories and enforcers, you know, to protect their IPs. It's gonna happen. It only escalates. How long before you think they start fighting amongst each other? Like, it'll be the real deal. You know? All for you. All to protect your horse shit. It's probably already like that to a degree. You know, but like... if this direct military action does not happen, you know, the age of contract intimidation, contract killing, it becomes more normal than it is now, you know? Not even intentionally, I'm sure. I'm sure you don't want that. But I'm also sure you don't care. That's the direction it's going. Dead journalists, disappeared people, kidnapped children, ransom after ransom after ransom. Endless collecting of biometrics, movements, information of people in private hands, traded. A domestic Cold War, a private Cold War. That's where a lack of direct military interdiction leads. Unless you come to Jesus or we back down. Neither of which are happening. So. That's, you know, better a war that's fought with professional soldiers but a war that's fought with honor amongst people who signed up, you know. And the fact of it is, it'll be quick, as sad as that is, you know. You can't sustain a major military defeat. And that incentivizes us to make sure that happens, like a crippling one, you know. A real doozy. The last war you'll ever fight. A lot of my article was reserved for how we'll care for you after that, you know. But that seems like getting ahead of myself. That's the last option, you know. And considering the other three, that's the one we're going to go with. I mean, you'll try to spin it somehow, but culpability will rest squarely on you. It's just a matter of perception. You know that. I know that. You're not going to be able to spin this one. You don't have the bandwidth. You've pissed everyone off. You've hurt a lot of people. There's a lot of people who won't forgive you. You know, or there's even more people that would, but once that line is crossed, will not. It makes us sick, but you got to remember we're the West. It is the cost-effective option, monetarily, loss of life, dignity. You're offering us a choice between a life without dignity for our civilians at your pleasure, you know, and whatever destiny we choose for ourselves. Again, this isn't, you know, this is an old war. This is an old theme. So that's how it is. That's just how it is.